Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another Axel 72 video, and in today's video I'm going to be giving my prediction for the Brian Norman Jr. versus Jin Sasaki fight. And so if you are new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so, like the video if you do indeed like the video, and let's get straight into this. So this is an intriguing contest due to the fact that we're seeing a Japanese fighter in the welterweight division fighting for a world title, and that realistically just doesn't really happen. And you kind of look at all the other names in Japanese boxing, there is very few fighters who are higher than welterweight that can even fight at a high level. I mean, there is basically none higher than welterweight. Jin Sasaki is kind of the biggest world level boxing Japanese fighter, and he's got that kind of pressure upon him, I suppose, coming into this fight. And he's moved up in weight from the super lightweight division in the past. He fought Hirioka and lost via TKO, and that was an interesting fight. I mean, he missed weights by quite a lot at that time, and he got suspended by the Japanese boxing board as a result, because they're just not a fan of you missing weight, especially not by a large margin. But he's an interesting fighter. I think he's an underrated fighter. I don't think he's been given that much credit so far in his career, but he hasn't fought a tremendously high level of opposition and hasn't fully tested himself where he's been able to really go in against the kind of top contenders that you look at before going into a world title shot. But he will be definitely an entertaining name to see in this fight. I mean, Norman Jr. is somebody who is improving with every fight from what I've seen, especially since taking the step up against Santillan. He looked excellent in that fight when the kind of, I suppose, expectations were there, or the pressure was there, or just he kind of rose to the occasion when necessary, and that was a very good win for him against a fighter who is perhaps to an extent a bit similar to Sasaki. I think Santillan does his work as kind of aggressively and as come forward like style like Sasaki, but I think it's a bit more compact and a bit kind of cleaner than Sasaki's, but I don't think it's as powerful as Sasaki's. So, I mean, Norman Jr. was able to do a very good job against Santillan, and that was a Santillan who was coming off a great win versus Rocha, and so he was riding the high, and Norman Jr. was able to end that, and then he went on to fight Cuevas, and that was an easy win for him. Cuevas just looked like he couldn't handle Norman Jr. at all, and I mean, he's not perhaps had the toughest of oppositions at the moment, but I mean, he got elevated to world champion. Like I say, he's not really fought any of the top names, but when you look at the welterweight division at the moment, it's a very weak division. I mean, we've just kind of recently heard the news that Ennis is wanting to move up, and it again just reinstates the fact that it is a weak division. I mean, Stanionis was a big name that was kind of being pushed and being excited, and then he got dismantled by Ennis, and that's lost his hype behind him. I mean, Haney's in and around the division, but he doesn't seemingly actually want to go for a title. I mean, at least I don't think so. He's seemingly more bothered about talking about bringing fighters up from the super lightweight division, if kind of naming the names of like a Richardson Hitchens, or perhaps he might still end up going on and fighting Ryan Garcia, who of course himself is in this division now, but again, he's coming off a loss. He looked poor in that fight. I doubt we're going to see him fight against any of the world champions, because I just don't think he cares that much about that. We have Rolly Romero, who might be going back down into the super lightweight division. Again, I'm not too sure what's happening with him, but I don't really see him trying to stake too much of a claim in the welterweight division. Perhaps he might, but I'm not entirely sure. And then you look, I mean, we've got Barrios as well, who's fighting Pacquiao. And again, I mean, if Pacquiao wins, then I guess that's a big name in the division, but it's an age to Pacquiao, of course. So I do think the welterweight division is quite weak at the moment. I think due to the fact of Ennis moving up, it elevates Norman Jr. into the number one spot in that division. And again, there's not really that many names that are wanting to fight against the Norman Jr. either. I mean, I know Ennis was wanting to at one point, but again, that ship's kind of sailed. Teofimo Lopez has been rumoured to fight Norman Jr. at one point, but I just don't see that happening. So I suppose, maybe you kind of got to say that it's not all Norman Jr.'s fault, the fact that he's not fighting these tough tests just yet. But, he's still fighting the top contenders in the division, and he's gone over to Japan here, and it's credit to him. He's going over to fight in his opponent's home country. It's always something you have to give credit for. Of course, we've recently just seen Angelo Leao go out there and do the same thing when he put on a very good performance out in Japan. And it's, I suppose, easy for top ranked fighters to be able to go out there to Japan to go out and fight. It's easy to kind of work with them for top rank because, of course, the links that Top Rank have with Japanese fighters and the way that they do push Japanese boxing as well. So it's a good fight. I think it's going to be an entertaining fight, and it's going to be an intriguing contest. But to speak about them both individually as fighters, Norman Jr., he's accurate, he's sharp, he's got very good athleticism. I think he's got a good chin. The fact that he does take certain shots, and especially against Santillan, he was taking a few shots and he was able to deal with that. And Santillan did showcase his power at a high level when he fought Alexis Rocha, and he was able to stop Rocha and do it quite emphatically. But Norman Jr. was able to showcase a good chin whilst also showcasing his precision and accuracy and his sharpness, and the fact that he can really land nice shots and kind of be explosive into his shots with his speed. He steps up, like I say, to seemingly the occasion. He's confident. He deals with a high output well. He's, like I mentioned, improving seemingly with every fight. He distributes shots fast. He can kind of throw a beautiful feint to the body to then loop it up to the top, which was what caught Cuevas out in their fight. He's got really nice check hooks. Quite often he'll use them hooks instead of a jab, which is a power play, and it's a play in which ultimately means that he does get caught with a jab quite often, but it does mean that he can be the one landing the cleaner in the exchanges, because if he's throwing a hook and you're throwing a jab and they both land, with Norman Jr.'s power, you would kind of expect that hook to be more powerful than the jab that he's getting caught with. Negatives about him, I mean, he's been defensively vulnerable, and that has showcased in his fights. Like I say, he does get caught with shots, and he does keep his hands quite low as well. And again, yes, I said that he does normally get the better out of exchanges, but again, do you really always want to be risking them exchanges? He does seemingly force perhaps the stoppage a little bit at times. I think he does have a bit of a lack of jab, of course, and he doesn't always set up his work the best. He can come from a bit far out, or even wait a bit too long when he's throwing, and he does have quite minimal head movements at the same time. Speak about Sasaki as a fighter, he's a powerful fighter. I mean, his record speaks for itself in the power aspect, but it's not kind of that one-punch knockout power. It's good power, it's able to finish fights in combinations and kind of let his hands go and land well, but it's not like, say, that power which is going to be able to get you out of there with one punch. And seemingly that is what Norman Jr. is kind of developing to an extent. His head's often on your chest, so it will be interesting to see if Norman Jr. is able to have the kind of distance that he often likes to fight at. It's hard to create space against him, and he drags you into his fight. He goes to the body well, and perhaps he goes to the body a bit better than that of a Norman Jr. He's got a high guard, so I think it will be intriguing to see if he's going with the check hooks, especially early on. Norman Jr., he's got a high guard, like I've touched upon. He's got short shots. He puts his all into his shots, and he fights at a high tempo. And again, it will be intriguing to see if Sasaki is able to impose his high tempo on somebody as confident as a Norman Jr., who I'm sure is not going to be wanting and willing to just let that happen without a fight. Negatives about him, I mean, he gets hit a lot. I mean, I've touched upon Norman Jr. getting hit quite often, but Sasaki really does get hit quite a lot, and he's been dropped on quite a few occasions, and his head movement again is quite limited. His footwork is quite messy, and he does kind of stand straight in front of you. When it goes into the later rounds, he gets more and more sloppy with his defensive work, and kind of just has a bit of a lack of defense altogether at late, and he can just be swinging for the fences a bit. He can kind of just be slapping his overhands in at that point. He's got quite a wide stance, and he can be quite a big target when he is throwing from that wide stance. He's got a lack of a jab himself, and he doesn't really fight the best at mid-range, and again, he can get caught with uppercuts as well. So Altogether, I do believe that Brian Norman Jr. is going to be able to win via TKO in round 10. I think that Norman Jr. might have to deal with a bit of an onslaught from Sasaki. If he can get his head on Norman Jr.'s chest, it might be an interesting contest in them first few rounds, but I don't believe the power of Sasaki is going to be perhaps enough to be able to stop Norman Jr. Like I say, Norman Jr. has dealt with a high output fighter who, like I say, does his work cleaner and better in close in a Santian. I just think Sasaki is going to decline his defensive work throughout the fight and he's going to become more and more vulnerable, and then Brian Norman Jr. is going to be able to capitalize with the speed and the accuracy, even if he has to take a few shots himself and showcase his good chin on another occasion. And so, like I say, I think Norman Jr. is going to be able to stop him late in that round 10. And then who he goes on to fight next, like I've touched upon, it's a tricky division to be able to make matchups in at the moment. And so, I mean, Rocha is ranked highly and he's still being pushed by Golden Boy, and perhaps this is his time to get a world title opportunity. And it wouldn't surprise me if perhaps that could happen on a Riyadh season show, possibly. If not, Chukadzian, I suppose, is an option. He's somebody that's always floated around, and when you look at his fight, his second fight versus Ennis, it was a good showing from him. So again, that could possibly happen, or maybe a Devin Haney. You never really know, but again, I just kind of doubt that contest would happen. It's just throwing names out there because, like I said, the welterweight division isn't in the best of positions at the moment. To speak about the co-main event on this card, though, it's for the vacant IBF World Light Flyweight title. It is Cristian Araneta versus Thanongsak Simsri, and it's quite a good contest, to be completely honest. I think it's an underrated contest. I mean, it's two fighters who, yes, have lost at high levels in the past. I mean, Araneta lost to Nonchinga in a very close fight, in a fight in which Araneta actually dropped Nonchinga. This was before Nonchinga started working, in South Africa properly, and started getting a good team around him. But he still, got knocked him down and perhaps arguably won the fight. But he also had a loss prior to that against Valadares, so that's not a bad loss to realistically have as well, and that was earlier on in his career. But since then has been on a tear himself. And Simsri, he's had a lot of knockouts on his record. They both have, both Araneta and Simsri, but a lot of Simsri's knockouts have been out in Thailand. I mean, you see so often these padded records with good knockout streaks from Thailand, but they haven't really fought anybody of too big a note. He's fought a couple of good names. I mean, Yabuki, of course, is the standout, and he is fighting now for Yabuki's former title. Yabuki went on to move up into the flyweight division after beating Nonchinga and then winning the IBF flyweight title. So now this title is now vacant, and obviously Yabuki was able to stop Simsri, do it in good fashion. He knocked him down on 3 occasions, I believe, and it was quite a dominant victory for him. But Simsri, yes, has quite a padded record, especially a knockout ratio record, but he's only 25 years of age, and so the amount of fights in which he has had in that time is impressive. He's been pro since he was 18 years old back in 2018, and yes, perhaps this might be one of the more major step-ups he's had since that fight versus Yabuki, but he has been on a good run himself, and he, of course, has only had that one loss. Araneta is a southpaw who is very powerful, and I believe his power does carry Simsri's power. When he was facing that of a Yabuki, really didn't look that devastating. I don't know if it was an off night or if the power is just, like I say, just due to the fact that he hasn't been fighting that higher level opposition. But Araneta's power has been proven, like I've touched upon, when he's fought at a high level. He's a southpaw as well. He has had a few injury issues. I mean, he's had a surgery on his left wrist, so perhaps that is a bit of a vulnerability. If he gets any problems with that, that could cause him some pain, but for the most part he has still been able to fight through that and still perform at a high level. Who do I think is going to win? I think that Araneta is going to be able to win via TKO in round 5. Again, like I say, I think Araneta is just more powerful all round. I think he is going to be able to get his timing going and just be able to be too much. He's quite a small figure, but a figure who can definitely, like I say, pack to punch. And if Simsri is the come forward style in which he was against Ibuki, I think Araneta is probably going to be able to meet him and then be able to land the better shots, the more significant shots, to be able to get him out of there quite early in round 5. Then who he goes on to fight next, it's again another tricky one in the light flyweight division. There's not a tremendous amount of names that are, really great options to see. I mean, I think Araneta has the capabilities to be a good champion, a champion who could defend his belt a few times and actually stake a claim for him as a top, world ranked fighter. But I mean, when you have to look at the names, he could have an all Filipino matchup with him fighting a Vacant or a Sugar Knob. Both of them are highly ranked, and perhaps one of them fights could happen. If not, I mean, does Nonshinga deserve another shot at a world title after losing against Ibuki last time out? Not really, but again, if Araneta is wanting to avenge the loss on his record against Nonshinga, you could arguably say that he will just let up Nonshinga because it will probably be a bigger payday for him, and it will be a chance for him to be able to avenge the loss possibly when Nonshinga's at his lowest in his career. And so I feel like Nonshinga is going to be looking at this fight and secretly hoping that Araneta wins as well, just because he believes that he'll probably want the rematch due to the fact that, of course, Nonshinga has the one over on him. So perhaps that could happen. Does it feel like, say, it's deserved? Probably not, but it might happen. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you did, like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.